If you ever needed an example of Donald Trump's desperation to find a dignified exit from the Iran conflict despite his motor-mouth nature, you have to see the embarrassing step taken by him today. I mean, embarrassing would be an understatement to describe his desperation. It's cringe and pathetic, to say the least. The moment Trump learned from Iranian Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi's social media post that he was leaving for Pakistan, the deranged occupant of the White House announced that he was also sending his two Jewish property developers to Pakistan to hold diplomatic talks with Araghchi for a peace deal. And this despite Iran making it clear that it has no plans to engage with the American delegation. But racist thug Pete Hegseth would tell you that his country's military has scored a decisive victory over Iran. His words, not mine. This would be the broad focus of my video tonight. Also in this video, the Iranians mock Trump by broadcasting live from inside the captured ship in the Strait of Hormuz. So please stay tuned. So today's developments have caused more humiliation to the Israeli slave in the White House. This guy is behaving worse than a child from an elementary school or nursery. So here's what happened. Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi took to Twitter or X to announce his visit to Pakistan, Oman and Russia for bilateral talks. He wrote, and I quote, "Embarking on timely tour of Islamabad, Muscat and Moscow. Purpose of my visit is to closely coordinate with our partners on bilateral matters and consult on regional developments. Our neighbors are our priority." End quote. Araghchi made it clear that his trip entailed bilateral talks with these three countries. But it seems Trump mistook the definition of bilateral in this tweet as talks between Iran and the US. His press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, immediately announced that Trump's two Jewish property developers, namely Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, were leaving for Pakistan for talks with Iran. This is what Leavitt said on Fox News.
Yes, I can confirm Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be off to Pakistan again tomorrow morning to engage in talks, direct talks intermediated by the Pakistanis, who have been incredible friends and mediators throughout this entire process, with representatives from the Iranian delegation. Look, the Iranians reached out, as the president called on them to do, and asked for this in-person conversation. So the president is dispatching Steve and Jared to go hear what they have to say. And we're hopeful that it will be a productive conversation and hopefully move the ball forward towards a deal. I mean, look, President Trump has made his red lines throughout this entire process very clear. He was flexible in extending the ceasefire. And so Steve and Jared will be off to hear what they have to say.
I'm also told that Trump got so excited that he put his deputy J.D. Vance on standby for a potential Pakistan trip. There was no ambiguity in Araghchi's plans or his social media post. He made it abundantly clear that his trip to these friendly countries was to hold bilateral talks as his country faces military aggression from the US and the settler colony of Israel. Even the CNN reporter got it right.
So a bit of a breakthrough here, Nick.
Diplomatic movement, Max. There'd been real stagnation over the last few days. In fact, standing on the balcony here, we could watch the Iranian Foreign Minister's aircraft as it approached the airport here, came into touchdown. And again, like last time when the delegation came 2 weeks ago, there was Pakistani fighter aircraft escort. You could hear the roar of their engines as well. So full diplomatic throttle, and the big guns rolled out on the tarmac to meet the Iranian Foreign Minister, the Defense Chief of Staff, Field Marshal Asim Munir, Pakistan's Foreign Minister there as well, to greet Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian Foreign Minister. What will happen? What will be the substance of the meetings here? Look, the way the White House is portraying it at the moment is they're saying that Iran has made some progress. Iran has requested face-to-face meetings with the US delegation because it's not at the same level as 2 weeks ago when it was led by the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Ghalibaf. That's the reason, as you were mentioning, Vice President J.D. Vance won't be coming. Now, some of the sort of sequencing of events here, we know that the Iranian Foreign Minister is having bilateral meetings with the Pakistani mediators while he's here. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner leaving Washington on Saturday. Travel time really doesn't get them here to Pakistan, perhaps until very late Saturday at the best, early Sunday morning. Now, the Iranian foreign minister had originally, in press releases from his office, had said that he was going to have his bilateral meetings here in Pakistan, go on to Oman for meetings there, then go from Oman to Moscow for more meetings there. Is he flying back in? Does he pause and reconnect in Tehran? The timings of the meetings with the US delegation not clear, the exact sequencing of how these meetings work, but absolutely diplomatic movement, Max.
But Trump is so desperate to find a dignified off-ramp to end this conflict that he decided to embarrass himself further by sending his Jewish property developers to hold talks with Arakchi. As the CNN reporter explained, Arakchi is already in Pakistan. And by the time Trump's pro-Israeli Jewish property developers arrive in Islamabad, it would be the early hours of Sunday morning. Arakchi may have left Pakistan by then unless there is a massive change in his schedule. Also, the fact that Arakchi has arrived in Pakistan by himself shows that he is not intended to hold any talks with the US directly or indirectly. If and when Iran chooses to hold peace talks with the US, the Islamic Republic is likely to send a high-level delegation for this purpose. This is because Iran knows too well the kind of unreliable human devils it's engaging with. If Iran ever needed a reminder of why it should never trust the US and Israeli soldiers, it needs to look at Gaza, where these barbarians signed a ceasefire deal last year to secure the release of its hostages. But as soon as those hostages were released, they embarked on a killing spree of Palestinians. Not only have they not ended their occupation of Gaza, as agreed in the ceasefire deal, but these depraved Israeli human devils have violated the ceasefire more than 2,500 times since last year. Only today, Israeli terrorists use American bombs to kill more Palestinians near a hospital in Gaza. Israeli attacks killed at least one Palestinian and wounded 3 near Kamal Adwan Hospital in northern Gaza, in another breach of the ceasefire deal. The Palestinian news agency, Wafa, said a strike hit a house close to the hospital on Friday evening, while Israeli artillery also fired shells and live ammunition in the surrounding area. In a separate attack, several people were wounded when Israeli terrorists struck a vehicle in Al-Mawasi, west of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Earlier, Israeli terrorists had killed at least 3 Palestinians in Gaza. Today's embarrassment aside, US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth had just told us that his country had pulled off a decisive victory against Iran. Watch this uncouth and racist clown here.
Operation Epic Fury has delivered a decisive military result in just weeks. Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, as the president has pointed out, all took years, decades. Vague missions, shifting sands, little to show for it. Operation Epic Fury has been laser focused from the very start, as I've said to all of you.
The US military is so powerful, according to this thug, that it is still unable to end the Iranian control of the Strait of Hormuz. Just see how he faces the question on his military's capability in the Strait of Hormuz. When it comes to taking on the Iranian military in the Strait of Hormuz, this thug suddenly realizes that this is the responsibility of the Europeans.
How big are these mine-laying boats? Can they be achieved from fast boats? And I wanted to follow up my last week question about as jet fuel stocks in Europe reportedly are only about 6 weeks left. They get most of the jet fuel from the Gulf. Have any European countries reached out to assist in cordoning off the strait and participating in escorts?
I know there's a lot of talks. You saw I would call it a silly conference in Europe last week where they got together and talking about maybe doing something eventually when things are done. Those are not serious efforts yet. We would welcome that. We would welcome a serious European effort to do something about this strait and this passage, considering it's their energy capabilities that are most at stake. I think it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call for countries around the world. Either you have capabilities or you don't. Otherwise, you're at the behest of a country like Iran, and the only country that can do something about it is the United States military.
Clearly, these criminals and petty thugs are just paper tigers, nothing more. Just like the thug they unsuccessfully projected as the future ruler of Iran. I'm talking about clown Reza Pahlavi, who was in Europe yesterday, where an angry Iranian expat treated him to tomato ketchup. At the end of his orchestrated media tour, this clown was angry, even with the Western media, for not amplifying his propaganda on the imaginary killings of protesters in Iran.
I have spent the past several weeks traveling across Europe, speaking to members of parliaments, governments, and the press. My visit had one objective: to give a voice to the millions of Iranians held hostage by the Islamic Republic, its terror, and its internet blackout. The millions of Iranians who have been silenced. But I can now say with confidence that silencing, that censorship, is not just happening at the hands of the regime in Iran, but by the international and particularly the European media. So I want to speak directly to the people of Europe. In the past 2 weeks, I have had 2 press conferences, one in Stockholm and one yesterday in Berlin. Between them, more than 150 journalists attended. We spent more than 2 hours together. And in those 2 hours, not a single of the 150 journalists asked me a question about the 40,000 Iranians slaughtered on the streets of my country on January 8th and 9th.
You don't have to watch a comedy show these days if you have been watching the crazy utterances or other antics of these blood-sucking charlatans. Yesterday, after one of Pahlavi's supporters learned about an attack on his leader with ketchup, he decided to pour ketchup on his own suit to show his solidarity with the psychotic descendant of the former ruler of Iran.
من میخوام امروز حرکتی که برای شاهمون زده شدن برای همدردی با ایشون و اینکه بگم شاه عزیزمون شما تنها نیستید، قطعا هر رفتاری با شما میشه در آینده ایران آزاد لحاظ بشه. جاوید شاه پاینده ایران، خیلی دوست داریم شاهزاده عزیز.
Can you imagine an Iran under these psychos? Anyway, I'll leave you with a clip from Iran's Press TV broadcast. This video shows the moment a Press TV reporter decided to report live from the deck of one of the ships captured by Iran in the last few days. This clearly shows the control that Iran wields across the Strait of Hormuz. Trump and his minions can say whatever they wish. The reality is that Iran continues to cause headache to the US military in the region. This explains why the US military has now decided to deploy another aircraft carrier.
So I am reporting from inside the vessel Inondas that was seized by the IRGC for violating the new set of rules and regulations by the Islamic Republic of Iran governing the Strait of Hormuz. This is one of the vessels that has been seized by the IRGC Navy, and on the other side there is also another vessel called MSC Francesca, as you can see behind me, which is another Islamic Republic of Iran for the same reason? Well, I am in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz right now, in the Persian Gulf. The strait is in full and strict control of Iran's armed forces, and there is a new corridor, a new waterway that has been designated by the IRGC, by the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And any vessel trying to cross the Strait of Hormuz will now have to pay a fee and use only the corridor that has been chosen by the Islamic Republic of Iran to cross the strait. And any vessel trying to, of course, any commercial vessel trying to cross the Strait of Hormuz using a different waterway will be dealt with accordingly. That is basically the main statement issued by Iran's armed forces. The fact is that the Strait of Hormuz will no longer be the same after the imposed war by the US and the Israeli regime on Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is now being ruled and governed with a new set of, with a new structure, basically, a structure designed by the Islamic Republic of Iran. For many years, vessels were using the Strait of Hormuz for free, creating a lot of pollution, reportedly, that has been affecting locals here, fishermen, and also, of course, resulting in disease and health problems. But now the vessels are going to pay for using the strait, and also they will have to cross the strait in accordance to Iran's regulations and the corridor that has been chosen by Iran to cross the strait. The so-called blockade of the US, it has proven to be futile as far as the Islamic Republic of Iran is concerned. A few days ago, some 10 million barrels of oil for Iran crossed the Strait of Hormuz all the way outside the region. So the blockade is not really affecting Iran. For Iran is indeed resisting the oppression and the military adventure by the US and its allies. And everybody knows that the US power lies in its naval forces. And it has for a very long time been boasting about its maritime power. But now what we see in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz is full and strict control of the strait by the IRGC Navy. The message is loud and clear. The most important thing is that the Strait of Hormuz will no longer be the same after the imposed war by the US and the Israeli regime. The Strait of Hormuz will remain in control of Iran, in strict and full control of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Moin Amini Press TV, the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz.
That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.